Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metroid 2 Return of Samus. I will be your host as we tour the planet SR-388 on our mission to kill all the Metroids without going out of bounds. Oh, hold on a moment. Appears to be some technical difficulties on the marathon's end. Give me just a moment. How's everyone doing on this fine night? Alright, looks like we are all set. Alright, now, earlier in the marathon you saw AM2R. I don't know if we have Metroid Samus Returns, I didn't see it. But, this is the OG, and I'm going to be showing it to you today. Now, I'm running my own timer, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And away we go! First thing that we're going to be talking about today is going to be our movement techniques. There are 3 speeds that Samus moves when moving in this game. In the air is the slowest, which is about 1 pixel per frame. When she's on the ground rolling or running with the Varia suit, you move at 2 pixels per frame. When you are running on the ground without being rolled up, then you move at 1.5 pixels per frame. Because of that, especially in the early game, we will be doing our very best to make sure that we are in the early game we'll be doing our best to make sure that we roll, but only on gaps of above a certain distance, because otherwise the time it takes to morph is still longer than we save. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, little early. Now, here you'll see my first unmorph jump. They're very similar to the unmorph jumps from Metroid 1, except they're a little more forgiving. And now we are going to be going into our first Metroid fight. These are the Alpha Metroids. They take 5 missiles to defeat. They don't really have any sort of like weak point or anything like that. Like, I can just hit them wherever. And they are honestly not much to worry about. Now, you're going to see an earthquake here. That is our first time that the acid will be lowering in this game. You also saw my first little damage boost there. You can cancel whenever you take damage by pressing the jump button. And you can use that to get an extra jump, or cancel the knockback from taking a hit. As you'll see more coming up this shaft. We're heading off to the right towards the first main area of the game, where we're going to be to collect a few really important power-ups, specifically Spider Ball and Bombs. Spider Ball is arguably the most important item in this run, along with, when combined with the Spring Ball, which we'll be getting in Area 2. It allows for a technique called Spider Throwing, which, when moving only to the left, allows us to maintain the same speed in the air as if we were moving on the ground while rolling or running with the Varia suit on. Health is going to be a really big deal in the start of this run, because in Metroid 2, especially in the early game, health is kind of a currency that you expend for speed. Like you'll see right here, it's faster to just go right along the ground here, so that's what we'll do. Hoping for good drops, but we don't need it too badly. Here we call beat percent strats. Take a little bit of damage. Music cuts out in general right around here anyways. Metroid 2 is known for its rather ambient soundtrack. There's a couple points in this game where your health gets pretty low, but this is probably the lowest it'll be. Also, wow, I'm getting like no drops. Play this a little safe. There we go. Alright, we'll be good. There's no more enemies that we're going to be worrying about after this. 1, 2. Alright. Missiles have a pretty solid travel time. They're very slow. So whenever you're opening a missile door, you want to be right on top of it. This is going to be our first major item, the bombs. They're not too useful when it comes to speed tech, mostly just for opening pathways and whatnot, but of course they're still very necessary. We're also going to be going to get our first E-Tank just now. This right here is what's called a crouch jump. Samus, in this game, can control her jump height up to a certain point, and then she's locked into the full height of her jump. However, if you crouch before jumping, it will force her to only be able to go up a certain height, which is useful for certain sections of the game, like that climb right there, where they're too high for a normal jump, but you can't. But the full height of the jump is too much, and you waste too much time in the air. Now, you will be seeing one of the actual important uses of the bombs right here, which is going to be for a bomb unmorph jump. Allows us to get up here without having to come back with a spider ball and take a really long path all the way around the room. Oh, that was annoying. Popped open on the wall a little bit. Alright. So now we are on our way to get the spider ball, having picked up those missiles. An important thing when it comes to damage jumping is minimizing your amount of extra time in the air, because as I said, how much slower the movement is. I can pretty much shoot as fast as I want. Like, obviously there's a limit to how many shots are allowed on screen, but other than that, I can really mash the shoot button. Now, Spider Ball is both important for some climbing sections earlier in the game before we get stuff like the space jump, and areas that we can't damage boost up, but it's also very useful for the technique I mentioned earlier, the spider throwing. Now, one little optimization that I do here is I jump out of there now. I added that recently. What you do is you start holding right as you climb, because Spider Ball will keep moving no matter which direction you're holding in the same direction, as long as you don't invert the direction. So you can move your way around the controller. Like now I'm holding to the right, and that allows me to free up the up button for that boost. One big thing that you'll see compared to some of the other runs that I've done in various Metroid marathons are a number of better different Metroid strats. Like that one right there is a relatively recent discovery. Just one of that's the big meta thing that changes all the time in Metroid 2 is Metroid strats. We find more and more efficient ones over time. Shoutouts to, I know he is watching a little bit right now. Shoutouts to Scotty. Shoutouts to Behemoth. I don't know if he's around. And shoutouts to Metroid McFly. I did a number of Metroid strategies back in the day, but they have invalidated a lot of mine with some really awesome new strats in recent years. Alright, now we're going to be heading to the lower half of Area 1, the Metroid Breeding Grounds. We have 3 Alpha Metroids to take care of down there. No pickups there, just the Metroids and us. One important thing that's going to be coming up here is getting through this big wall of sand. That's on our right. It's going to be just past here. And we're going to be using some very careful shot timing and movement to maximize the amount of time that we have to deal with this. And good. We want to get through before we get hit a second time. That's the key there. This was one of the first room strats I ever figured out. A nice consistent method for running through this room without running into any of those pancake enemies, as we call them. These alphas are all pretty simple. You just hope that RNG brings them up towards the front of the room. I do a little damage jump there just so I don't risk falling in that pit. Falling in those pits is really bad. We call them the run ender pits for a reason. You've been seeing me do a little bit of the spider throw strat that I mentioned earlier. Right now I can only do it when I bounce off the ground from a height, But eventually, once I get the spring ball, I'll be able to do it on command, and that's when the run really starts picking up speed. Alright, a little bit of bad movement on that one, but it's not a big deal. We do not roll through here because it'll mess up the timing to get the cycle on that enemy, and it just wastes more time than it saves trying to roll through there. This will be our last alpha coming up here. We'll be doing a cool little damage boost on the way up. Hopefully I can get it. It's a little bit finicky. Metroid 2 is a really good speedrunning game for beginners, in my opinion, because it's very forgiving in terms of like being able to get good runs. There we go, perfect. Got the perfect damage boost there. But there's very, very little in the way of RNG in the entire run, and so because of that, it allows you to really focus on just improving as a player and not having to worry as much about like just getting the right run. Because like, for example, like Metroid Fusion is another game that I really love to speedrun, but it can be a little frustrating at times because you have to deal with things like IDOR RNG and bad boss cycles. Whereas this game, outside of the Metroids, which are pretty much all manipulatable to do specific things, you can rely that your strats will work the same every single time you use them. Alright, and we are moving on to Area 2. This is going to be where I take one of my 2 safety saves in this run. It's a big trick coming up called Skyscraper, where we get early spring ball by going up the wrong side of the tower in Area 2. If it goes wrong, I'm probably just going to reset instantly because it'll consume so much health that I will not be able to try it again. The strats for it have gotten a lot more consistent, but like things can always go wrong, and so it's better to play safe when it comes to this kind of stuff. I am playing on emulator. Last year I did a run on my 3DS, however I wasn't really satisfied with the quality of the capture, so I've just been running it on the emulator in the interim until I can get a capture 3DS or some other better solution. But Gambate is a very, very, very accurate Game Boy emulator, so it's pretty much comparable to console. If you're curious about what you're allowed to use to run this game, in terms of like timing and stuff like that, you can check the Metroid 2 leaderboards on speedrun.com. We have a breakdown of like what consoles are allowed, and if they are, some of them have to have like a speed multiplier because they run at a slightly different frame rate. Alright, this is going to be the safety save real quick. Appreciate the luck. This is what was always this is the backup strat if something goes wrong with bouncing off that enemy normally, but that is the strat I just go with when I am doing marathon runs because it's safer and don't take any extra damage. You have to halt for just a infinitesimal moment there in order to dodge that enemy. If you keep going up at full speed, you will always run into him. Alright. This is Skyscraper. Oh no. Alright. Alright, this is still doable. This is about as how much health like a decent Skyscraper can have. If I had fallen down anymore, had taken any more damage, I would have reset, but we're good. It's gonna be a little tight for a sec. Here we go, and the spring ball. There's only one real thing that could happen to us in the meanwhile, which would be if this upcoming Metroid goes bad, but I sincerely doubt it. Now, I lay this bomb a little bit further away from that because if I lay it further away from the wall, I'll actually get clipped a little bit into the wall instead of bouncing up high with the bomb. And there we go. We are in no danger anymore. Alright, now we're going to be going to get a couple of items down here. We're going to be getting the high jump boots. And we're going to be getting some missiles and an E-tank. So, I remember to varying degrees because it depends on like how much I'm paying attention, but if you'll notice, I try to only change to missiles or not before screen transitions. That's because there's this glitch called the select glitch. And the reason why this category is called 100% no out of bounds is because you can use the select glitch to replace tiles, essentially, on the map. So, for example, I could replace this wall and actually just go through it right to the other side and pick up the items on it in an out of bounds run. And there's a number of other warps that you can do with out of bounds as well. But, unfortunately, since it can also spit out kind of random garbage onto the screen, it can really block me and get in my way. So you have to be careful about when exactly you change to missiles or not, because it can come back to bite you really hard if you're not careful. Call this little jump here the Three Stooges, bounce off the three faces, and move on. Now you'll really start seeing how much like spider throwing just speeds everything up in these areas. Like, I'm flying across the room. Now, there's a bit of an optical illusion. It looks like I'm moving faster even than rolling, just because, like, you have less context and stuff like that. But it's the same speed as if I were rolling on the ground, which is still really good. A recent change to my strats is that I actually do this entire room morph now. It used to be that I would, like, try and optimize it and like morph in and out, but with a proper management of like your bounces from the morph ball, you actually don't even need to worry about unmorphing. Oh yeah, no, the select glitch can absolutely happen by accident. It happens all the time, and it has been really brutal to some runners. Like, you'll just get cut off from a room and have to re-enter and waste like 10 or 15 seconds. This is a little bit of a route change. I used to do the route where you did this Metroid first. Yes, and we got the lock on it. Fantastic. That is the best way to kill that Metroid, and it is surprisingly challenging to get on a consistent basis. Ooh, just barely got by him. Gotta be careful. Now, we're coming up on the Varia suit, which, as I mentioned earlier, will make me have to worry about optimizing my movement a lot less. I won't have to worry about rolling every single time I'm on the ground anymore. I'll only have to worry about spider throwing in the air versus running on the ground. It is a blessing to have, because like, it can get pretty tiring mashing the morph, unmorph up and down, and you have to do that enough just to keep spider throwing optimally. Yeah, the mechanics of the select glitch, it's something to do with dumping like some certain line of memory just into whatever the next thing that's loading is, and it's weird. It's actually consistent. Like, you can get it to do the same thing over and over again, which is really interesting. And now we have the Varia suit. Also, that was a really solid gold split. Like, 10 seconds. If it weren't for the marathon strats, I'd be ahead right now. Alright, so now we're going to climb up back out of here. grab this missile, and then we're gonna head down and go to fight our first Gamma Metroid. It's gonna be, There's going to be a strat that we're looking to do. We're going to lock him in the corner. And it's gotten pretty consistent. We have a better setup for it now than we used to. But it can still, if it goes bad, it'll still be rough. So, but some people who used to run this game may not have seen this version of it. So let's see if we can show them something cool. All right, got him to go up high. And now, actually, what we figured out is that the auto fire rate of the missiles, all I was doing there is holding the missile button. And it makes that infinitely more consistent. You don't need to mash it or anything like that. You can literally just auto fire. And it'll shoot missiles at a rate that keeps them stun locked in the corner. There is no beta Metroids. Alpha, Gamma, Zeta, and Omega. These are sand. Sand is not fun. Sand will immediately refill as soon as you scroll off screen. That doesn't matter much in there because we're only going through each of them one way for the most part. Though it'll matter for coming back out of the next gamma, I guess. But it'll really matter on, there's a big later Metroid. So this first gamma, we call him Sand Gamma because he is buried deep in a wall of sand. But there is a later Metroid called True Sand Gamma, which is a much bigger pain in the butt because of the sand in his room. Alright, so here's our second one. We can't quite get him trapped the same way, so we just gotta take advantage of his, like, how long he normally takes to shoot. There we go. Nice and clean. That is all of the Metroids in this area, so we're going to go collect the last item and then get on out of here. Ah, I didn't quite make it. Darn. Got some more damage boosting coming up. Oops. This, and in a couple other spots in the game, there's these like long bombable blocks. And the faster strat is to sit on top of that bomb as it explodes and re-anchor yourself. But the safer strat is to just move away from it and then move back into the hole. Because it's a lot easier. It can have kind of weird interactions when you do it this way, but otherwise it will, otherwise you can kind of get sent off in a weird direction. If you move away, you can just go back in there and then do the rest of it safely. And we are off to Area 2. First major upgrade there is going to be the Space Jump. Space Jump debuted in Metroid 2. Where you're not going to see me using it a whole ton. I'm pretty much going to avoid using it wherever possible when I have to raise up because it's very slow. It's got a very clunky, long wind up to it. But it is still necessary at some points in the game, and it's still certainly faster than trying to go up via Spider Ball or anything like that. And I'm already going past this save, so I may as well just do it. Just play it safe with those guys. If you don't wait for the missile to catch up and you scroll the screen, it can kind of like make it fuzzy whether or not sometimes it'll hit them. A big thing about moving around in the morph ball that you want to optimize is not bouncing off the ground, especially if you're going to the right. If you're going to the left, you can usually play it off with a spider throw, but if you're going to the right, it's just wasted time because you can't do anything. So you either want to cancel it by using a spring ball as soon as you hit the ground, or an unmorph, or just like land by a smaller amount. Just anything you can do to avoid doing that. You're going to see me use a lot of quick little movement in this next room. There's a little spider ball, and then going back to normal. This will attach me to the wall, and then near laglessly let me just keep going. It stops me from getting the bounce that I was just talking about. Sometimes it's a little easy to mess it up sometimes, but that was a recent technique. I want to say that was a behemoth room strat that got added there. That pit down there is going to be more important later, but it doesn't matter at the moment. We just do a little bit of a pause right before each of these things to give them time to come out, otherwise we'll run into them and take damage, and it'll waste time. Alright, and then getting a quick missile refill down here that we need. Come on. Ah, darn it. Sometimes the hitbox will play nice and let me collect it from the next sand panel over, sometimes it doesn't. That time it didn't want to do it. Not quite certain what actually causes that to happen, but it just kind of happens sometimes. Usually, rather, even. And a nice little set of damage jumps coming up here. Now, one of my recent changes that I made, I switched to a faster route where you go inside the ruins first as opposed to going around the outside. I used to forget, it used to be, it was safer to go along the outside, and so that's what we did for a very long time. But, we realized that, it's not hugely, but noticeably faster if we go inside here first, then go down and around. We're going to activate this, but we are going to go right on by and worry about him later. And we shoot this guy just to lag him. It pauses him in the air for a couple of frames so that I can get under him without having to interact with him. Now we're going to see a interaction, or likely see an interaction here. If I unmorph right as I walk into those things, then it'll cancel the damage frames and let me immediately start moving again, like if I did like a damage jump. Another Metroid coming up right here. Just kind of go right through him as we come in here. You might have noticed that on some of the Metroids, I shoot them right as they come on screen, and they'll actually like take a hit right when they activate. That is how Metroids work, at least alphas, or Metroids that don't have to evolve. If you hit them while you can see them partially off screen, and then scroll them on screen, they'll immediately take a hit. Alright, so now we're going to be going to a pretty challenging Gamma Strat that I'm honestly not super likely to get. It's pretty darn unreliable, but we will do our best to get it. We are trying to trap him in a corner underneath some blocks, but it is very hard to get consistently down. He does not like to play nice. Oh. Ah, darn it. That's too bad. He was stuck on top of me and there wasn't a lot I could do about it. Ah, stop going this way. That's the worst. He wasted a bunch of time having to make it run to the front of the room, too. I almost got it. I got him underneath, but I unfortunately shot out the block behind him. That's generally how it goes. It's very challenging to get that strat reliably. Do a crouch jump there so that we can get right on here. And that is everything for the inside of the ruins. We have one more Metroid to kill on the outside before we go to the bottom half of Area 3. And a couple of items as well. We got an E-Tank and a missile pack. Ah, I didn't get it. No, that's bad. That's really bad. Ah. Get on the wall, please. There we go. That's too bad. I was actually going to be pretty ahead. That's really... That is unfortunate. I was going to have actually a pretty good goal before I missed that jump. I still got a gold split, even after all that. Wow. Such is life. Yeah, this is the first half of Area 3. That is too bad. Alright. This Metroid can be a little uncooperative. We're gonna try and drag him up here above us. Alright, come on, get down here. There we go. He likes to try and run away to the right, and that becomes a huge pain in the butt, but he played pretty nice. Got some nice damage jumping here. And now we are off to the lower half of the area. Once again, it's kind of like the lower half of the first two areas where it's pretty much just a Metroid hive. There is not anything in the way of items down there. It's all about just managing the Metroids well. So it's a very easy place to lose a lot of time. There's a lot of strats that can make or break depending on the situation. This is going to be one of my favorite Metroid strats coming up here, though. I am literally going to delete this Metroid from existence. Go underneath. Spring jump up here, get it above me, and then just hold the B button. What Metroid? Alright, we're going to try and get a nice little damage boost off this Metroid to get us right into the hole by going around it. Yes, first try. There's going to be another Metroid back here. There's a faster strat where you can try to get him like further above you, but it hasn't been very reliable for me recently, so I'm just going to play it a little safer and slower. Now we're going to try and do the unmorph right through this Metroid again. We didn't get it, but it's okay. It's not really much of a time waste, honestly. That was just about the best RNG I could ask for from that Metroid. So the thing is, we don't want him to come over too quickly, because if he goes all the way to the left, then he's kind of just hanging out above the pit. We're trying to leave the room. There's a bunch of damaging tiles that are going to be right here, so I just steal them that way. So we're going to activate this. We're going to come up here. Let him kind of just go right past us. Get him over to the right. Some of these Metroid strats are pretty iffy. And you kind of just got to make them work, because the Metroids don't like to be cooperative, but we do the best we can. This is going to be another one where everything goes well. We just kind of delete him. Go right around him. Come on, get down here. There we go. Oh, at least he was nice and cooperative. Only lost about 8 seconds on that split, which is actually really good for my, because my, I had a gold split, in the, run that I'm comparing against on that split. Now, I'm doing a thing that you're never supposed to do in Metroid 2 when you're in a new runner, which is spider throwing in the acid. I've done it long enough that I can trust myself to do it, but you don't really want to do it too much because it can make your health pretty dicey if you're not careful. But we'll get out of here probably about 40. Yep. Which is plenty. If you get out of the acid quickly enough, you don't even have to take damage. Let me just take a quick refill right here. Alright, so that what we did there, I kind of forgot to mention it beforehand, so you guys might have been a little surprised, but that was the, what I like to call the acid trip. So what the game wants us to do, and you'll see that Metroid in a bit, we're supposed to go out of this cavern, down the caves, go down to this single Gamma Metroid waiting at the end of a tunnel, and then come all the way back, and then these caves would be unflooded with acid, and we'd get to continue into them and kill the 2 Metroids back here. But that is way too much time. So this is the only real sequence break that we do, other than early Spring Ball, which is debatably one, because, like, you're still getting Spring Ball when you would get it, it's just you're going up the wrong side of the building. But this is the only true sequence break where we actually do the Metroids out of intended order, because we don't want to go all the way that way and then all the way back. We just skip it and come straight to deal with these guys. That might have been a little spooky for some of you who didn't know what was going on. Alright, that was pretty good RNG from that Metroid. He didn't bounce around too much. Sometimes he can just be a real bastard. So now we are going to go and deal with that one leftover Metroid that I was just talking about that they wanted us to go do first. Okay, get out of the way. These guys, I can't just kill them. I know it seems like I'm kind of doing a lot to get out of their way, but the thing is, they're invincible to any shots on the sides. That's the solid white, or solid, like, tan stuff you see on the sides of them. They're shields. So I kind of just have to deal with those enemies, unless I can get a really good shot on them, and even then they take a couple shots to go down, so it's generally better to just leave them alone and just route myself to, like, not interact with them as much as possible. Same way that we came down this one, we're trying to go up. We're trying to not land with more than a tile above the ground, because otherwise we'll get the bounce. Health's doing pretty good right now, which is always nice for this section. We're going to be going through a little tunnel here. This is the only area in the entire game that these enemies show up. It's just a one-off area with these random enemies. It's a little interesting. They behave a lot like the pancake enemies, but they're a lot bigger and their jump arc is a lot higher. They are also one of the only enemies in this game that drop big health, however. I didn't mention that, but enemies in this game, instead of being like Metroid 1, where the drops were completely random, and instead of being like later Metroid games where the drops were determined by what you need, the drops in this game are set. Whatever that enemy will drop is the only thing it will always drop ever. Because of that, it does mean that you have to deal with chances of dropping, but you at least know what you're going to get from any given enemy, which you can use to route for like getting health and stuff like that. And that Metroid went nice and smooth. The closest thing I can think of is squids. That's all I can really say about these. I'll get out of here. Health is honestly looking pretty good going into tower. Being above 2 tanks is pretty good when we're starting area 4. Or, yeah. Nice, saved a few seconds. You see what I mean about having to manage my morphs a lot. Especially in this room, like... I have to keep myself really low to the ground or I'm going to run into these bats that are flying above me. So you gotta do a ton of really low spider throws. It can be a bit of a pain. Alright, so there's a Metroid here, but, we're just gonna ignore him. We'll worry about him later. He'll be the last one we deal with when it comes to this area. We will also hit 100% items in this area. There are no items in the areas near the Omega Metroids. This is where we're also going to get our only beam upgrade. So, and I know that might sound a little weird. This is Metroid 2, or this is a Metroid game, and I'm saying this is a 100% item run. However, with our current rule set, we determined that the game does not... The only thing that the game tracks with regards to beams is which one Samus has, but it doesn't even treat them as individual pickups. Like, you can go get an ice beam out of a room and then walk back into that same room, and that ice beam power-up will respawn. So because of that, we decided that we're only going to require you to get the ice beam because you already need it to defeat the game, rather than having to go... Because the game provides you with a special area to refill your beams anyways here, and so due to that, we just get the ice beam. So it's literally the only difference of just climbing up a few rooms. That was our first Zeta Metroid. They are either the easiest Metroids in the game or absolute MF and disasters that will ruin runs. If you can get them pretty much entirely stun locked, like I did that one there, you're golden. Everything is fine. If you don't, they become some of the hardest Metroids in the entire game to deal with on any sort of consistent basis, to the point where, like, depending on how far I am into the fight, like, even if I pumped like a solid 10 missiles into it, if it breaks its lock, I might actually just leave the room and come back in. Like, that is how bad it can get. We morph here so we can do an unmorph jump on the way out. Alright, made it around there. Like I said, we're doing really good on health right now, so I'm going to be a little more aggressive with my spider throwing in this section. This Metroid is one of the ones we don't actually have a strat for, so I just try to get him above me as much as possible. Because if you can get him stuck against the wall, you can get a number of shots off on him. There we go. Wasn't too bad. Now you're going to see me purposefully take damage here. Samus is so much faster on the ground than in the air that I will literally take the damage just to be able to go a little bit faster by running on the ground for a few frames. is our going to be last Metroid for a sec. We're about to do a little spat at item collecting. Oops, okay. I almost didn't make it. Now, this is our dark room. We just know it. There's no like item you can get to light it up. There's nothing. It's just dark, and there's nothing you can do about it. Hey, nice, another gold split. I'm on fire today. Alright, so now we got another one of those hidden ceiling pathways that we're just going to be like way over here for, because I don't want to risk falling. You gotta unmorph and, or you gotta re-spider ball and lay the bomb at the same time, so it can always be a little stressful if you miss it. This is going to be our last E-Tank up here. I know that it doesn't look like we get any more, and we don't, but since all 6 E-Tanks are unique items that do not respawn or anything like that, we still consider them needing to get all of them for 100% completion. This Metroid is one that can go really, really well or really, really badly, and I'll admit, this is the one strat that for some reason I just cannot seem to get down recently. So, we'll see how it goes. Gotta lead him over to the door. And then we gotta try and get him stuck. There we go. Yes! That's what I'm talking about. That was great. Wasn't completely perfect, but it was very solid for that fight. We're gonna try and do another bomb leg just a little bit away from the wall here to get bounced up into it. Yep, perfect. We're going to do a little trick here called the Zeta Zag. We're going to throw ourselves right into the Zeta and use it to bounce ourselves up to go get the, we're going to go and get the screw attack before we bother with that Metroid. One little optimization that I figured out recently is if you just stick yourself here, then you can just get bounced up to that faster. Now we're going to go deal with that Zeta on the way out. One little thing that we have to do to make sure that we get a good way to deal with that is I'm going to purposely jump here, and that gives me a little more speed to get down past that. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to crouch, and instead of being able to stun lock him in place, we're going to do a running stun lock where we're going to just get him. Yes, perfect. There we go. Awesome. These Metroids are going fantastic. This is an area that's probably the most brutal in the game in terms of like Metroids that can just ruin your day, and almost every single one of them is going absolutely fantastic. This one is another one that's got really kind of awkward. There's not really a good strat for it. You just kind of gotta feel them out. I know that there's some strats that I haven't learned yet, but I just found that this is pretty reliable. And 100%. Woo woo. That is all the items in the game. Now we're just going to shoot out 2 little dots here. Because this way, it minimizes the amount of problems that we can have with this guy. If you shoot out all 4, he can kind of... I don't think he can fireball you. I think that the sand will get in the way if you do it like that. At least I've never gotten fireballed with that method. Alright, dodge that. Go kill this last one. Wasn't the best, but it was pretty solid. Okay, giant gold split, guys. We are ahead. We are on almost PB pace. I say almost PB because my actual PB is different than my current splits because of the because I changed routes like I mentioned, and the change in the routes messed up all my splits, so I kind of just changed them. But we are actually like 16 seconds ahead right now. So I am pretty hyped. We're gonna go down right and then left here. There's two of almost the exact same room that we have to deal with. We want to go right and then left. Alright, let's see how these Gammas go. Or Gammas? What? Omegas. So first we got the last Alpha Metroid coming up here. Then we're gonna get faked out. We have to go right back up this same path to go and fight the first Omega. But we gotta just knock out the first Alpha, or the last Alpha real quick. I'll start explaining Omega Metroids now, so I don't have to spend too much time doing it while I'm fighting the first one. Omegas look a lot like just giant versions of Zetas. Their difference, though, is that they have a weak point on their back, where they take, I think it's either 3 or 4 times damage. I always forget which. But, suffice to say, they take a ton of damage, and it stun locks them if you hit them in that spot. They'll get stuck. And you can just keep stun locking them in place until they die. So, ideally, with all 4 Omegas, I get that. And if I get that, then we're going to be in a really good place. We have consistent strats for all these, and I've been getting them pretty consistently in practice runs, but we'll see how it goes. The Alpha Metroid is this late in the game, in my opinion, just to, like, make you kind of realize what you're dealing with when it comes to the Omega. Alright, so go past the water, let him swoop. Perfect! Alright, first Omega, perfect. Alright, so now we're going to have a little more of a movement section again, going over to the Omega Nest. This time we're going down on the left side, where that enemy would have come out. The acid in this one room is for some reason significantly more damaging than any of the other acid in the game. They don't really, like, give a good reason for it, it just is. It even is visually different, but as far as I know, it's only in that one room. Alright, so there's a very specific cadence that I want to do to go up this big climb at the start of the Omegas area. We're going to go on these 2 size platforms. We're going to do a full size jump and then an unmorph jump. And then when I see that 2, that means we're coming up to the top. There. Oh, shoot. Okay. Chill out. Hands are getting a little antsy. We're all good. Alright, first Omega of this set. We fight 2 of them in essentially the same room. We jump up. Okay. It was almost went bad, but it worked out. So I'll still call that perfect, pretty much. I whiffed 1 missile. That's 2 for 4. Going right through these rooms is a lot of careful jumping, because 1 fall could waste a lot of time down in one of those pits. Going to the left is relatively easy, because you just gotta follow a consistent spider throwing rhythm. Alright. Our health and missile counts are fantastic right now, by the way, too. Like, being above 3 tanks at this point is an absolutely great sign. Very smooth spider throwing. Activate him. Again, with they turn around and get smacked in the face, but that's fine. Still pretty much perfect. And the last one is much, much easier than the rest of them. It's got a much more reliable setup that we've known about for a lot longer. I will be taking a safety save, just in case something goes horribly, horribly wrong, because it's literally like right next to where I'm going, but I will not be taking a refill. Because I have plenty of enough health to deal with well, this game's equivalent of Turian, the Metroid lab. Well, that is a new one. But it worked out. I made it work. I've actually never seen that Metroid go that high before. So we got our marathon, that's never happened before. But I made it work. Alright, we are 27 seconds ahead. We are officially on PB pace. I could have even been more ahead, but there's a couple of tiny flubs on those Omegas. Well, it literally is, and then it did something that I've literally never seen it do before, Flip Side. Or Flip Roast, sorry. Flip Side is a Metroid 2 runner. That is literally the only time I've ever seen that Metroid not do exactly what it's supposed to do. So I'm as surprised as you are, if not more so. I've been running this game for like 7 years at this point, and I've never seen that Metroid do that. Now, the reason why I'm waiting until I land to morph here is because Samus will always bounce from the what weird goop stuff if you just do it normally. So you actually have to do it that way. You have to morph only once you're down on the ground. Yep, Out of Bounds is a route. Out of Bounds is a route that I rediscovered. I didn't discover it, but I found a Metroid 2 Secret World site from the early 2000s that talked about using this potential speedrun route, and I realized that could be legitimately viable. Alright. Quick safety save, and up we go. You do the spring to unmorph jump there because it gets you out of that faster than any other combination of jumps. You'll be stuck in there a lot longer if you try to space jump out of it. Here comes the larval Metroids. Alright. Gotta stay chill. It's really important not to get grabbed here because it wastes a lot of time, but it's also really important to let the Metroids get close to you so you can ace them as quickly as possible. Alright, that is all the larvals. No grabs. That's hot. $77 missiles, not a bad count. Oh, darn it. I messed up. Alright. Okay, she's giving me a bad pattern. Come on, Queenie. Play nice. Come on, play nice. Give me an open mouth. Okay, thank you. I gotta be really careful with my missiles now. I need to save them for actually hitting her in the face. I just need to use as many bombs as possible. She's giving me a really bad pattern. Yes! Okay. Whew. Oh man, that was terrifying. I definitely thought she was totally about to screw the run. And keep in mind, this is going to be a PB including marathon safety saves. That's hype. Oh, this is gonna be close. Oh, jeez. Oh, I don't think this is gonna be a PB anymore. I think I lost too much time. No! I'm off by like 4 seconds. Darn. 102.28. Darn it! Lost just too much time because of that queen fight. Well, that is it. That is Metroid 2, 100% no out of bounds. I hope you guys enjoyed the run. I'm glad I had such a good pace, even if I didn't quite make it to PB. All that means is that my next couple runs are going to be really good, because, hey, I have like an easy 20 seconds to save off of marathon safe strats that I had to add. Oh, just 4 seconds off of being PB. Whew. It is warm in my room, and that was tense, so I am feeling it. To be fair, I messed up on the first round. That RNG could have gone a lot differently. I messed up on the first round of the queen. I got a little greedy trying to let her get a little bit closer with the mouth and keep freezing her in place, and I could have just gone in and laid my first set of bombs, and that might have changed her RNG seed. So it's probably my fault, but who knows. But it's definitely a marathon PB. And that still beats my current best run on this route. So that is a PB for this route, and only 4 seconds off of my PB on my old route. So that is still a fantastic run. I am so glad that I got a chance to show you guys this game. Make sure, dude, if you enjoyed watching this, please reach out to me. Go over to Speedrun or go over to speedrun.com. Go over to the Metroid 2 leaderboards. Check out. We have a Discord. We have a leaderboard. We have a lot of guides for different room strats. We have a kind of old 100% tutorial, but I am happy to that I made myself. I'm happy to provide any further information if you need it. I would absolutely love to see some more people run this fantastic game. You guys have a great night. It's Kenta signing out.